Alright, it's probably time to remove that that line cord from being taped inside the radio. Don't need it there anymore. And it's just going to cause me some headaches now. There we go. Now, cool thing about this radio is I don't need to put a grommet here because they flared this hole where the line cord feeds through. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. Yeah, let's go ahead and put a grommet there anyway, because I don't like the sharp edge on the inside of that. So now I'm going to have to wet this as I go. You just have to use your imagination as to how I do that. This is not a hobby for the squeamish, okay? Unless it involves mice. Then you can be as squeamish as you like. Just go ahead and pull this through there. The UL knot will still provide a way to prevent it from pulling out, but this rubber grommet will prevent it from getting cut on the chassis. I'll have to give you a better shot of it in a minute. There we go. Perfect. It looks like I've got to fix some rust on the bottom of that foot. Here's that grommet, or I call it, really a strain relief meant for electrical cords. So let me see if you can see how it's made. See, it's got these little wings that catch on the inside. So once you get it slid in, they prevent it from coming back out. The cord slides through it on this side, and this provides some strain relief and protection from the steel. And it gives it a finished look too. That's all. All right, here we go. There is that push button assembly all installed. And I have connected the power leads. So you remember that the main power leads came over from that terminal strip assembly and came down to this switch, which I think is working okay. I'm going to keep my eye on it. Now, let's take a look at the rest of it. You see I have all the wiring pretty well done. I've connected those wires that needed to be connected. There's that green ground wire I'd mentioned. And there's that yellow one that goes to that rail, and then that red wire there goes to that top rail. So what am I up to now? I'm ready to install the slug tuner. So these, for the preset tuning, the set of slugs. So let me get the camera on the tripod and we'll go ahead and put that in. Okay, these coils will be the next thing to go into the radio. So let me remove these. I think the glue is probably hardened plenty by now. Alright. So that glue is not meant to, like, if I start tugging on these to keep them from coming loose. It's just meant that as I manipulate them to get them in place, it will kind of help me. It will help prevent me from breaking them off. I mean, if I start pulling them on purpose or just being silly and manhandling them, I will tear that glue loose, and then I'll also tear these wires loose. So that was just a minor precaution. So now I'm looking at this, and I didn't dust this, and that's the dusty side, so chances are good that's the top side. We've already checked all these coils, so we're good there. You know, as soon as I put away my little box of star washers, I realized that I need one. That's just how it is. Getting eager to get it done, you see. I'm always eager to get it done, but that's when you make mistakes, when you get in a hurry at the end. So don't do that. So I went ahead and mounted. I forgot to turn the camera on, guys. I'm sorry, but I don't want to disconnect it just for showing you this, because I just did the mechanical mounting piece. So I've gone ahead and mounted this slug tuning assembly, and it just mounts with 2 screws, one right there and one right there. And that's all I did. That's all you've missed. And then I was describing until I realized the camera was not on. Basically I am going to take these leads and connect them up to these terminals down here under the push button assembly. Now remember, one of the terminals broke when I was taking this apart. It just broke off. And so there's going to be one of these leads that doesn't go to anything. And let me see. 1, 2, 3. It's the 4th one. So this one right here. I am going to put I'll cut this a little shorter, but I'm going to put a piece of shrink tubing over this to keep it from touching anything. And I am going to leave this one in there as a spare in case any of these other slug tuners break. Well, then you can use this one. At least you can get a preset station out of it. I'll show you this one down here. That's the easiest, I think. See, there's a terminal right there. This needs to get connected to that. So, nothing to it. Just feed this into the terminal. So I got it through the hole. It's a lot easier when I'm not trying to stay out of the way of the camera. Okay. Basically, you just, that's it. And you just crimp it a little bit and solder it. It's just a standard solder, except that it's a real fine lead, and you have to be careful with it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and solder that. It's really hard to do it with the camera right here. It's hard to work around and get the right angles without blocking your view. So I'm going to go ahead and do these, and then I'll show you what they look like. You'll get the idea. All right, there you see the leads soldered in. And the one skipped one, of course, like I said, the broken one. Nothing to it, guys. Boy, was it tough to get in there and get them, though. It looks easy. It was a pain. All right, let's put the capacitors in now. I went back and watched my video so I could make sure I had the orientation right for these. And this sits in here like this with these tabs toward the bottom. Okay, so let me get this ready. This is all cleaned up. The leads don't look exactly original, but they're going to work pretty well, actually. So nothing to it. Just go ahead and put the screw through the hole. Get that on the screw and just get it started. Same deal here. There we go. Now, same deal, simple matter of attaching these leads to those terminals. Okay. Now, I cut the leads a little long. I'll probably trim them, so no big deal. That's easy to do. I want to leave a little bit in case I ever have to lift this thing up and out of the way. Okay, a little bit of solder flux, and away she goes. And then I think I'll call it for the night. I've had a long weekend of radio work. It was my birthday yesterday, but I worked on radios all day. I like working on radios, but I gotta find some other things to do too. What the hell? I don't know what's wrong with me. What's worse is you didn't say anything. Again. Come on, guys. I thought we were looking out for each other. I'd say something to you. I'd say, hey, dummy, look what you did, dummy. I'm just glad I hadn't soldered it yet. All right, guys. The preset tuning is all hooked up. This wire wanted to lay against a couple of things I didn't want it to lay against, so I clamped it in position and applied heat to it and then let it cool, and it took a set just like I'm always saying it will. In order to mount this tuning condenser, I need to connect these leads right here to these little terminals on the bottom of the condenser. The trouble is going to be that I need these leads to be short, but yet I need to be able to get to the condenser to solder them on. So it's going to be a little tricky. We'll give it a shot here. I will have to remember to connect the ground from this little fella underneath the chassis. I've forgotten to do that in the past, and it's not a very good thing. The radio doesn't play very well if the tuning condenser is not grounded. Let's see how this works. This may be tough. Wait a minute. This was up in the air. This doesn't have to lay down on the ground. I forgot about that. Yikes. I hope I didn't cut them too damn short. I think I just barely made it. You guys are supposed to be watching. Alright, let me find those screws. We'll bolt that sucker on there. I was thinking that tuning condenser had to lay down on the floor of that, you know, right up on top of that chassis. It's a good thing I didn't cut those wires any shorter. It's just barely going to be enough. All right. If you recall, there was a little flanged bushing that comes in from the backside of the grommet. Right through like so. One on each grommet. You know, I'm so doggone careful to put everything in baggies, but yet I still always wind up missing one. I don't quite know why that is. There's number 4. Okay. Now, the idea, as I've mentioned in other videos, that this bushing here prevents that from squeezing down too tightly on the grommet, see? So you can tighten this until it is all the way tight. And you don't really need a lock washer because the grommet provides sort of, you know, it keeps it tight. Wow, did I get lucky on those wires. Now this one grommet here is a little bit thicker than the others. It's okay. It'll just squish it down a little bit until this pushes against the bushing. It's all right. Let me get my 1/4-inch driver, my nut driver. Oh, if it were a snake, it would bite me. So you tighten these down and you actually lock them down, and it doesn't squeeze on that grommet. It'll squeeze on this 4th one a little bit, but not bad. See, it's going to work fine. And that shoulder on that bushing also makes sure the dimension is right, so these things it's on there evenly. I really need to clean this thing up because it's looking pretty rough. So let me do that before I put it on. I need to mount this bracket on here before I can think about mounting the rest of the stuff. So let's get it in position. And then I'll mount the stuff to the bracket. That way I'm not handling the glass, for example, while I'm setting the bracket up. I think that'll work really well. So this is just a simple matter of 4 screws, if you remember. By Jove, this thing's starting to look like a radio. That 4th one's a little tough to get to, so I want to get the other 3 kind of started. These nuts have a tendency to round off the corners, so you want to be real careful with them. Make sure you got a good 6-point wrench, a good 6-point driver. But it's coming along, man. It's coming along. All right, so I'll get to work on these light bulbs. That's actually going to be pretty dull, so I'll do that. And I'll get them ready to install. Now, that's when I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, boys and girls, one of the moments of truth have arrived in that I am going to do a very first power-up of this old Philco. And I'll tell you what I've done so far. I've put on these 3 light bulbs, mounted this whole framework here, got the tuning condenser mounted, but I don't have any of the dial stuff connected yet. I did test the radio without the rectifier, and I do have filaments lighting up on all the tubes, so I'm good there, and the dials are lighting up, so I know I have the 6.3 volts. I have now to put the rectifier in, and I'm going to do a power-up check, and I did not see any spike in current or even really any change hardly in current when I turned it on and just ran it without the rectifier. So now I'm going to put high voltage to it, and we'll see what happens, okay? So let's turn this puppy on. Okay, now the variac is on. I've already got the radio switch turned on, so we'll check that out in just a bit. I didn't test it. I just left it on when I did the tube and light bulb check. Okay, let's come up in voltage a little bit. Let's go to about 45 volts. All right, we're at about 45 volts. Got very dim light bulb lighting over here. Close this tuning condenser. All right, no change really in current, just the smallest amount. Let's go to 60 volts. I usually like to let it sit and soak for just 36 seconds to 60 seconds at 60 volts, just to kind of begin forming those new electrolytics. Unlike the Edison that I just did, this thing does have a lot of electrolytic capacitance in it. Now please remember, if I do get sound, that this variac puts a lot of noise into the radio, so we're likely to hear some buzzing from that. And If it does come up and I'm satisfied with it, then I'll plug it directly into the wall, into the isolation transformer without the variac. All right, so we've been sitting at 60 volts for a bit. Let's move on up now to about 75 volts. 75 volts, light's getting brighter. I see filament lighting up on the 84 rectifier. Oh, check it out. 75 volts, I got something. Let's see if I tune anything. They can hear it's having an effect. Nothing yet. Let me go up in voltage a little bit. Sometimes the oscillator or the mixer won't kick in. These are these two triodes here, these XXL tubes. 90 volts. It's gotten louder. All right, let's see what we get here. Okay. Wow. That makes a bit of difference, doesn't it? Let's see. Check it out.
Confidence in yourself. So, politics. According to John Boner,
just one station right now.
Number one, John. Thank you. Support it.
All right, let's come up to. Let's get up to 100 volts.
What they say when they run as Republicans. If Donald Trump wants to get something done in Washington, he's going to have to align himself with the House Freedom Caucus to drive out the scum. What Donald Trump said is going to be death to the Republican Party.
110 volts.
Obamacare. Boehner is Exhibit A as to how they're going to die. We're not.
Current is not even. It's really like a quarter of an amp.
Tell us one thing to get elected, and then liberally say to death for Obamacare. This guy's
123 volts.
a great president once feared in the English language. I am from the government.
So I'm basically getting one station.
Yes, you five. A plus rated with Bureau 800-474-9159. Call now and get a free survival guide. 800-9159.
All right, what I think I have going on here is just I got an alignment to do on this radio. I don't know why this antenna makes so much noise. So maybe when I'm upstairs, it will do a lot better. Plus with an alignment, because it's actually coming in on a lot of stations when I do this. All right, guys. Now let's test this power switch. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Let's turn this off. Now, that tells me, of course, that the audio and the RF are working. I have some work to do to align it, and maybe some other things. I don't know where the noise is coming from. I think it's mostly just this room, because I have this trouble all the time with a radio that I know I did well on. I run a signal from the signal generator in it, and the signal comes through clean as a whistle, regardless of how low I have the signal on the generator. And it doesn't matter, all the bands across all frequencies on the generator, it'll work great. I take it off the generator, put it on an antenna, I get noise, lots of noise. So I have an air conditioner running just outside the window. That thing it's an older air conditioner. I'm sure it's putting out a lot of noise. I got a neighbor's air conditioner just 40 feet away from this window across the fence from me. I have fluorescent lights on and LED lights on all over the house. So I just have a pretty good feeling that that's what's going on with this stuff. And because when I take it out in the shop, I get a whole lot less noise. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and align it. I do not have the alignment instructions. I'm going to get a hold of some people and see what I can come up with, because I got a feeling that the alignment instructions are not on Radio Museum for this particular series of radios. But there's another fella on there, Restore Old Radios, and I think his name is Al. But pardon me if I've screwed up and I've never been good at names. I'll look him up because I'm subscribed to him. I've been for a long time, and I'll get his first name and I'll send him a message and ask him if he had alignment instructions, because he did a 41280 and did a gorgeous job on it. The radio is beautiful. It was a slideshow that he did on YouTube. And the radio looks great. He narrated it, told us what he did and the progress of the set. And he did a fantastic job. His looked better than mine, I think. Quite a bit better. But I will get a hold of him and ask him what he did for alignment. Perhaps he's got some ideas. So I'll do the alignment. I'll set up, I'll do any other tuning that it's going to need. I'll clean these knobs. I'll set up the dial. I've still got to come up with a dial pointer. I don't have a dial pointer for it. Put these light bulbs in. Really, I should be, I'm in the home stretch, guys, so bear with me. It's coming up soon. Well, the original speaker buzzed so much during the initial power-up test that I started to investigate a little more. And I took the dust cover off of the center of the speaker and I started looking. And there was a lot of crap down in there. And it's very scratchy. And I did try to clean it out. I did everything I could do to clean it out. And I'm not able to get it completely clean. And I'm not able to get everything out of there. I can make it better. In fact, it'll change as I work on it. But you hear that. Now I know I'm applying pressure, not centered. But still, it's making a lot of noise. And it does buzz like crazy. But the only way to fix this is to remove this cone and basically clean it out and put the cone back on, which is more or less a recone job. I talked to the owner of the radio, and the truth is, I don't think this speaker is ever going to sound as good as what it did when it was new. So we're going to try something different. I have this speaker here. As you can see, it's from a 1949 Philco, model 491613, and I pulled this sucker out last year out of a console that was just where the cabinet was too trash to save. But yet the speaker works fantastic. The cone looks really good, really solid. It's dusty. I'll have to dust it off. This is in good shape, and it makes no noise when I move it. Now I know I'm moving it. You can see it move. So this should be a perfectly good speaker. I might touch that with a little bit of speaker cement, but that's nothing serious. That's real easy to take care of. And now it looks smaller than the original, but if you look at, this is where the basket ends right here on the original. So the speaker itself, including the surround, is roughly the same size. Okay, so that's a good thing. This is a newer speaker, and that's also a good thing. The thing is, it is a field coil speaker, but the DC resistance of that field coil is about half of the DC resistance of the one on this speaker. The original speaker is supposed to have 1100 ohms DC resistance, and this one here has almost 600, just about 580. So, what to do? Well, that's pretty easy. You want to have a large inductance in the power supply for filtering purposes. I understand that, but I have done conversions before where I've replaced that with bigger capacitors and a big power resistor. Well, I already had to put a 22 microfarad in place of that 16 microfarad, and that worried me a little bit. But now, with this situation, it doesn't worry me at all. Now, it didn't hum, and the voltages weren't high when I did the initial power up, so I think I'm okay there. But here's what I'm going to do. Since I'm shy about 550 ohms, I thought this would be a good solution. I went to Philco today and got a 560 ohm power resistor. It's 25 watts, so no problem there. I went ahead and installed that power resistor in series right here. So the total DC resistance of the field coil and the power resistor is about right. It's about 1100 ohms. I still have an inductance in there to kind of give me that reactance for the filter. But because I have a slightly larger filter capacitor and that resistor and that reactance from the inductor, I should be okay. This should filter perfectly fine for this radio. And I shouldn't have any trouble at all. And I can adjust voltages if I do have problems, but I don't expect to. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a whirl. I've installed it. Now, I didn't mention that the voice coil on the original speaker was about 5 ohms. And the voice coil on the replacement speaker is about 3.6 ohms. So what I've done here is I installed a 1 ohm, simple 1 ohm resistor in series with this voice coil. And that should give me about the right resistance so I can match, do the impedance match here with this transformer. I don't think I'm going to see any issues there. I'll know when I play it. So let's go ahead and give it a whirl. Okay guys, please pardon my mess here. I'm doing a quick test, and I usually clean up my bench a little bit before I do that. But I just want to see if the little mod I did worked out. So let me try this. Got the isolation transformer on. Let's turn on the Variac. Now, I'm bringing it up on the Variac because I've been horsing with the power supply, and because I've been doing that, I want to make sure that as I bring it up, I didn't do something dumb to mess it up, and I don't want to see any spikes in current. So let's keep an eye on that as we go. So we're going to watch current right here as I come up in voltage here. Ultimately, I'm going to get to about 124 volts. That's what we usually have around here. But I'm going to do it slowly and watch this current. So let's give it a whirl, okay? The radio is already turned on. The volume is turned up about 3/4. So let's start nice and easy. When I get to about 45 volts, if I haven't moved in current, which it looks like I haven't, not really much, I'm going to just jump right up to 60 volts then, because I know the caps are good. So the current looks good. I'm way less than half an amp, so that's good. The light is on, so we're okay there. Let's come up a little more. Let's come up to 75, okay? 75 volts. Still less than half an amp. No spikes, that's good. If we were going to have a problem, we probably would have seen it by now. Let's come up to 90 volts. We should hear some sound here soon. 90 volts. All right. Ah, there we go. Hey, check it out. I'm on a station even.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host.
Okay, not very loud yet, but that's okay. With this radio, it seems that I need to be right up to voltage to get full volume. That's okay. Some radios are not that way. Nice bass on that speaker. All right, let's come up to 100 volts.
He was talking about the climate change hoax with a comedy crew, but
100 volts.
Here, I think the next few months
Sounding good.
Challenging for our country, and we best gird ourselves for it.
Sounding good so far. Alex Jones, give me a break.
I'm going to talk about a new report that I heard on the way in this morning on the radio.
110 volts. It's interesting, when I increase the voltage, the pitch, the treble increases. All right, so we're 110 volts. We haven't really moved in current. We're good on current. 120 volts. Speaker's sounding good. No buzzing. That's a good thing.
So this is reported by Reuters. They just had somebody who
so it's sounding good. Let's go up to 124 volts.
For being at the Nevada standoff.
Okay, 124 volts, that's where it's going to be most of the time.
One of the most miscarriages of justice that I've ever seen in my life. Having been at that event, we were there.
Let's adjust the tone.
And covering it. We were there as the standoff was happening. I was down there at the wash with the first few people. I heard them threatening to shoot us. And I saw people standing around, most of them not armed. Some of them had weapons and holsters, which is allowed in Nevada. And if you look at that picture, pull that picture up there again.
Speaker is sounding real good.
Zoom in there, more circle.
Now I do need to align the radio still, so keep that in mind. Still less than half an amp. We're doing great. All the stations are up at the fully open end of the range of this tuning condenser.
They all started to just walk after having stood there for a while.
Okay, so the rub is that the speaker is going to work great. That's a good thing. That takes away one more problem. Now, I did note that the basket itself is a little bit smaller. So what does that mean in terms of mounting the speaker? Well, I'm going to leave the speaker mounted on the square board that it was in the console it was in. And then I'm going to mount the square board to the cabinet of the radio that we're installing it in. There's plenty of room to do that. All I have to do is drill 4 or 6 little holes, use some very small, medium-sized wood screws, and mount it into the radio, into the speaker board that's in the radio. So I'm not drilling into the actual decorative part of the cabinet, and I'll mount this board. That will recess the speaker about 1/2 inch, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. It might even give it some more resonance. A lot of nice radios had the speaker set back a little bit in a little box. So I'm not worried at all about the way this is going to be affected by that. This should mount up nicely. I used the speaker cable and plug that came with the speaker out of that other Philco because it was in better shape and it's more flexible, and it was something I could just go ahead and install, and I didn't have to worry about installing it in this plug. The plug is the same between the two speakers, so I mean, it doesn't get much easier than this. It doesn't get much better. This is a perfect replacement situation for what I had to deal with. And I'm just glad I had the speaker. I actually have 2 or 3 of these Philco speakers, and I'm glad of that because they come in handy. The transformer's not hot. In every way, this thing is performing. All I need to do now is to align the thing, go ahead and put the dial string on it and mount that dial glass and the needle, and I should be good to go. Okie dokie, guys. We're going to put one more video in the can. This is a really good place to stop because we'll finish up the assembly coming up in the next video, and then we'll install this thing in the cabinet. So, from your Western Outpost in Salt Lake City, this is Michael. That's all for now.